Welcome to Arcade Memories, where I will go over great arcade games that not only littered the American landscape back in the day, but those that stuck with me over the years and made an impact in my young gaming life. With that said, I find it difficult not to start off this new segment and not talk about what I consider to be my favorite arcade game back in the late 80s, RType. This arcade was released here in the States in 1987. It was developed and published by Irem in Japan, but they had Nintendo handle publishing rights in the US market. I found it so odd seeing the Nintendo logo in the arcade cabinet, and when I did, I thought to myself, well, this game is gonna come out on the NES sometime soon. So I waited, and then it finally did come out on the Master System, the main competitor to the NES. So when I wasn't at the arcade, wasting away tons of quarters on this game, I was over at my friend's house playing it. And what was cool about the Master System version was that it actually had an extra mini level that was hidden within level 4 and not found in any other version of the game, including the arcade. Granted, it wasn't anything mind-blowing, but it was cool to see that you got an extra level included in the Master System version. Only reason my friend and I found out about it was because it was mentioned in a video game magazine called the Team Sega Newsletter. And if I remember correctly, I think it was free, but I could be wrong on that. We wasted away many hours trying to find that hidden entrance to the level. Right here it says it is located at the beginning of the stage when it is clearly in the middle. Sour, whoever you are, you suck, bro. Back in the 80s, programmers, developers, and so forth were not allowed to use their real names in game credits, so codenames were used. RType was no different. The producer of the game was Kinte, Abiko was designer, with programming done by Sum and Misachin. Artwork was done by Aikio Oyabu, Yoshige, with Masato Ishizaki composing the soundtrack. The game was originally designed for a few reasons. One, Irem had just designed a new 16-bit board that was capable of displaying many colors and sprites. The name of this board was the M72 arcade system. The team at Irem were already well aware in recognizing the success that Gradius had in the gaming landscape. They wanted to create a new shooter, while being different from it at the same time. For instance, during an interview with the Japanese gaming magazine Gamist, Abiko, who was the designer, wanted to use a feature in the game where you could power up a ball, and got the idea for it after watching Dunk Beetles in action. Now, can you imagine that for a second? The Force module was a huge deal. Nothing like it had been seen in the early days of the genre, but tons of games would borrow that idea after it. Bouncing lasers was the coolest looking weapon in the game, but I think it was the ring laser that most RType players would seek out. It was an odd looking weapon, but it was the most destructive and covered the most area on the screen, once you get the two options upgraded to the R9 of course. They launched these little wiggling things that, to me, at least to me, it always looked like little alien snakes with one eye. The fire weapon is the only one I question as to why it was even there. Does anyone out there like this weapon? Anyone? Only time I would see it being useful is the last stage, although some might argue that stage 6 is a good level to have it. The other cool aspect of the Force module is the ability to use it not only as a weapon, but an object. Some levels even require you to place it either on front or back of your ship to use it as a shield, since it is pretty much invincible to the majority of enemy attacks. But you could launch it from the front or the back of your ship and use it as an additional gun turret. So the Force module takes a bit of on-the-spot tactical planning, if you will. One little problem I always had was launching it at the wrong time to a spot where it would get stuck, leaving the ship completely vulnerable. At that point, you had to rely on skills. So, from a development point of view, the Force module was a multifaceted add-on for the ship, providing offense and defense depending on how it was deployed by the player. It truly was some magnificent programming work done by the team in Irem in creating this unique option to work seamlessly with the overall game. And let's not forget the charging cannon, a staple in the RType series. This cool weapon requires no additional upgrade to the ship at all, and this charge shot actually comes in very handy during stage 4, which I'm going to get to later on. The levels were also something to marvel at. They have actual names. Stage 1 here is called Encounter, with the background music called Start Battle Theme. First, let me just say that the initial entrance tune as your ship just appears into the screen sets the tone for the rest of the game. It is iconic. Hell, the insert coin sound effect is awesome. It's part of my intro theme. The level throws enemies at you in specific waves before you enter the mechanized base of the Bidos Empire. You get to see some enemies you're gonna see in other stages as well, and some that only appear here, like the orange mech, which the TurboGrafx manual calls Tablon. This level also has the famous circling enemy and Dobkeratops, the boss, and quite possibly one of the most iconic enemies of the game and maybe the entire series. You see him in the banner and side art of the arcade cabinet, and he is shown in many ads and game covers, but not the TurboGrafx 16 cover, which is just atrocious. It's just bad. The artwork is just borderline Master System box art, and it shows one of the worms from level 5 on the first level. Let's never speak of this cover again. Stage 2 is possibly my favorite level on any side shooting game ever. This one is called The Creature Cave, a very fitting name, and the background music is called Monster Beat, which even more fitting. This one right here, it just blew me away when I first saw it. It was basically like a wasteland of alien creatures, and when I was young I used to tell my friends that this was the aliens that didn't make the Bido cut and so were sent to the gulag here. The developers were clearly inspired by the Alien franchise, and it shows. The stage is full of enemies that you won't see in any other stage in the game. The boss of the level is called Cyst. Now, I'm not sure why, but it reminds me of a human heart. Stage 3 is awesome in that you aren't fighting multiple enemies throughout the level, you are fighting one ship, and the ship is the level. When Irem set out to do a different shooter, this level right here exemplifies that goal. The name of the level is Gigantic Warship. The boss is the warship. Hell, the entire level is the warship. The name of the background music is Gigantic Warship Sonata. Nah, just kidding, it's called Battle Pressure. Great name too, since the entire level is slow, but it's full of tight spaces and you need to carefully maneuver through each one of them while avoiding turrets and some flying enemies here and there. But the sole main focus of your energy needs to be the ship's movement. Your force module also needs to be used away from your ship from time to time, as well as behind you as you maneuver your way to the ship's core. Now, like with the previous boss, you can take this one down with one good timed power shot. Level 4 is called Frontline Base. The background music is titled Granulation. This is the level where the programmers thought of adding a feature where the ships will leave a trail behind them that the player could shoot and maneuver around, or leave in place as means to provide cover for your ship, since some enemies can't get through them. This is another example of using the enemies and the level in ways that offer more options to the player. You can go in blasting everything in sight, but then leave yourself vulnerable to enemies that come from the top and behind you, and this is the level where you will start to see that happen more and more. Or you can strategically remove only the necessary obstacles in front of you. The ring laser is the best option here since it is the only sub-weapon capable of decimating the trailing algae-looking web. This stage also gives you the best chance to fully power up again, offering laser power-ups, missiles, and 2 options. The boss of this one is Compiler, a ship that breaks into 3 parts and fires lasers at you. By positioning yourself properly and using the force module, you could get rid of 2 of them easily before moving on to the last part of the ship. This one's a neat looking boss, I like it. Level 5 is referred to as The Den, with the music title being Monster Lurking in the Cave. I was doing great in the game up until this level right here, where I finally lost a life midway through. And then it just all went to hell. The tricky part here is not the large worms, but the fact that they blow up into small segments that spiral outward in a circle, causing tons of objects to be flying all about the level while you engage other enemies. It's easy to lose yourself in this level. Dying here puts you at a huge disadvantage. This level offers little upgrades. If you die before halfway, you are stuck with getting the completely useless yellow fire upgrade and some speed. If you die past the halfway mark, you get only one laser upgrade right before the boss encounter, as well as a speed and missiles. This makes it especially challenging starting from the halfway point. Hell, the entire level is a huge challenge if you die at any point. By the way, the enemy boss here is Belmite. The tricky part here is that speeding up helps you considerably in getting past this boss and overall stage, but that overall speed is going to work against you on the next stage. And that brings us to level 6. This is the one that most of us back then got stuck in at the arcade, myself included. This level is the transport system, and the music title for this level is Scramble Crossroad. It's actually my favorite tune in the game, yet feels so out of place with the level design overall. I always thought that a more tech-heavy tune would have fit better here, but again, it's still my favorite tune in the game. The whole level is designed like a maze, which on its own would not be such a bad thing, except there is a constant flow of these mechanical enemies traveling through the level from all sides at all times. And on top of that, you got these things clinging to the walls that fire at you. The reflective laser is the best weapon here, but you would do fine with the ring laser fully powered up with the options. This stage, like the last, offers little upgrades all around. Dying here is a huge pain. The intro, it's not impossible without power-ups, but it is very difficult, starting powerless from the midway point. This level took me a very long time to pass while playing it again for this video. In the arcade, there is no boss for this stage. You just have to survive for what feels like an eternity before it finally ends the level. But if you had the TurboGrafx version, a boss named Yashu was added. He had 2 units on the top and 1 in the bottom firing at you, while the main part resides on the right part of the screen. 2 good powered up shots gets the job done. This is the stage that many consider to be the hardest part of the game. Memorization here is your best friend. Stage 7 is called The City in Ruins. This one is all out hell, as enemies are gonna swarm you from all directions almost non-stop. The music here is titled Pride Before the Fall, with the boss being called Bronco? Wait, what? Is that correct? Yeah, Bronco. It's such an odd name and so out of place. One of the biggest challenges here, other than the swarming enemies, are the constant explosions that occur in certain points of the level, since they can destroy your ship. There is also a large moving object that appears shortly after the start of the level that takes a ton of damage and hinders your movement about the screen. If you are lucky enough to make it to the end, you are greeted by a large garbage disposal center, with the boss positioned on the right, and a smaller unit popping up from the garbage heap from time to time to take a few shots at you. The designers of the game stated that this level was supposed to be the representation of the first level after the effects of the Bidos Empire going to war. It was also supposed to be the last stage. I think I died over 50 times on this level. After that, we finally have the final stage, the Bidos Empire Star. Background music is called, I'm not making this up, Uterus. Now, when I first saw this level, it was a huge letdown. The entire game consisted of the developers going out of their way to offer up so many cool ideas and level designs, and it culminates here with a level almost devoid of structure and any backgrounds as well. This and Stage 3 are the only stages in the game with no background graphics. This is also the level where if you die anywhere in it, you have to start from the very beginning of the stage. There is no halfway marker. This level has enemies not found in any other part of the game as well. First, you get these things that look like alien babies coming at you from all directions, which in itself is very disturbing. And then you get these spinning things that constantly just go around in circles and you can't destroy them. There are 3 laser power-ups made available to you before you get to the last boss, with some speed upgrades. That's it. This is another stage where speed is a must. The boss is Bido, and you will need the force module in order to beat him. Or her. Or it. Does it have a gender? Does it care? Anyway, after some time dodging the little alien babies and those damn spinning things, which the TurboGrafx manual is called Sora, the force module destroys the Bido baddie, and all is well with the galaxy. Until RType II. This game was the main reason I had my dad buy me a TurboGrafx 16. After playing it in the Master System for months, a kid at school handed me a copy of EGM number 2, and in one of those pages, I saw the most beautiful picture of all. A perfect arcade-looking pic of RType on the TurboGrafx 16, a new system. Now, I had seen the Genesis in action, but it did not have a port of this arcade game. The Turbo port looked picture perfect, other than the slight scrolling of the screen vertically and parallax scrolling missing for the most part, but it was the closest to an arcade game I would get at that time, and it was awesome. RType is still one of those games that you can pick up today, and it still looks great and plays even better. It offered a bunch of gameplay elements not found in any other shooter of that time, and revolutionized the genre in the short years after its release with the creation of the Force module, as well as creative level designs that rewarded players for memorization and timing above all else. Being fully powered up didn't hurt either. The M72 board Irem had developed was used for other games such as Hammering Harry, Dragon Breed, Armored Police Unit, Legend of Tonma, Ninja Spirit, and Image Fight, to name a few. This game was such a hit that it went on to spawn 10 more titles in the series, including one called RType II, Operation Bitter Chocolate. I couldn't make up such a title if I tried. I'm going to actually cover the entire series in a future video, but for now, this right here was the original arcade hit RType. It got ported over to almost every single console and computer of that time, including the CX Spectrum, C64, Master System, Amiga, Atari ST, X68000, MSX, the Game Boy, the Amstrad, the PC 8801, they all got a port. Yes, and I'm going to say it again, even the Game Boy. NES owners could play RType on any one of those other systems. If for some reason you have never played this game, do so. It is one of the best side-scrolling shooters ever made, period. Now, I want to thank everyone out there for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed this little trip back to the good old days when arcades, such as this one, ruled the gaming landscape and the wallets of gamers everywhere, myself included. This will be a monthly segment, so stay tuned for another great arcade game in a few weeks. Until then, keep watching, keep gaming, and as always, take care of yourselves.